Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, welcome to my channel. So before I go into this video, I just wanted to preface and just kind of warn y'all that if y'all hear any baby noises, Bennett's sitting right here next to me. He was napping, and then of course, as soon as I sat down to film this video, he woke up. So if you hear him just talking and cooing around, just try and ignore it. But today's video is going to be my labor and delivery story. So I asked y'all guys on Instagram what y'all wanted to see next from me, either my night routine or this video, and this video won the poll, obviously. So my next video... Hey. Are you not going to take a nap today? Okay, so if you see me looking down, I have notes written down on a piece of paper so I wouldn't forget anything, because it has been a little while since I gave birth, so I just want to make sure I have everything like in the correct order and like all the details and stuff. So I wrote some things down that I could remember. So yeah, let's go ahead and get into the video. So when I had my son, I was 38 weeks and 2 days pregnant. So my original due date was February 18th, and I ended up having him on February 6th. So just to kind of start the story, it was a Tuesday. I'm already losing track. Okay. So to start off, I had an appointment on February 5th. Yeah, so my weekly appointment was on February 5th that day, and I had a growth scan that day too, just because Bennett was measuring ahead of time. Like throughout my whole pregnancy, Bennett was measuring ahead. So I had a growth scan that day to see how big he was. So at my appointment on February 5th, I was 2 centimeters dilated and 100% effaced. So I was already kind of in labor. I was in pre-labor, I guess you would call it, or like the early stages of labor. And I was having cramps like that whole day. And I just didn't really know like what contractions felt like. Obviously, it was my first kid, so I was cramping, but I didn't really think anything of it. It just kind of felt like minor period cramps, to be honest. And so when I went to that appointment, I just kind of I told her that, and she said that it could be like early stages of labor. Like I was already 2 centimeters dilated and 100% effaced, so I was already like showing signs of like going into labor soon. So that was probably, I don't know, I think my appointment was like at 1 or 2 in the afternoon, and Carson was out of town. Like Carson was working. Okay, so Carson was coming home that day from work. And when he came home, I believe he came home at like 7 or 8 o'clock. I was still having cramps, but they weren't really consistent, and I didn't think much of it. Like I said, like I didn't know what labor felt like. It was my first kid. So we ended up deciding to go to the hospital that night at midnight. It was like, I think it was midnight, 12:30 or something like that. And when I got there, I think I was close to 3 centimeters. So they, I had gotten like the gown and stuff, and they were monitoring me, and like they did show that I was having contractions pretty regularly. My doctor ended up like keeping me, and then she started me on Pitocin. So that was probably at like 1 a.m. on February 6th now. And so around 1 a.m., I was close to 3 centimeters dilated, and they started Pitocin at that time to kind of like amp up my contractions and just like progress me faster. And so then I remember laying in bed. My mom and my aunt were there, and Carson was there. I remember laying in bed, and I was like, oh, this is nothing, this is fine. I'm gonna get some sleep. And the nurse told me that at 5 a.m., that's when the anesthesiologist would come and make his rounds to give epidurals before he went into surgeries for that day. And I just kind of told her, I was like, well, it's 1 a.m. now, and I'm not really in a lot of pain. Like, am I going to be in that much pain in 4 hours from now? Because going into labor and delivery, I wanted to feel like real labor pains. Like, I wanted to experience it all. So I didn't want to get my epidural too early, because I wanted to know like what labor felt like. So I was kind of worried. I was like, well, if he comes at 5:30 in the morning, am I even going to be in that much pain to want my epidural? Because I didn't want to be just stuck to the bed, because after you get your epidural, you're numb. Like, you can't get up. So the nurse was like, oh, honey, you're going to want the epidural. Like, you're going to be here all day. Like, it's your first baby. You're probably going to be here all day. You're going to want your epidural at that time when he comes. And I was like, okay, whatever. Didn't think much of it. So me and Carson decided to try to go to sleep and get some rest. So Carson fell asleep. He had just driven home 7 hours from work that day. So I told him, I was like, yeah, just go ahead and go to sleep. I'm going to try and go to sleep. and I couldn't get comfortable. Around like 2 a.m., 2:30 a.m., my contractions started getting really bad, and my mom and my aunt ended up going out to the car to like lay down and sleep, take a little nap until things started progressing faster. I remember texting my mom. I was like, hey, y'all should come back. Like, I'm in a lot of pain and Carson's sleeping. I don't want to wake him up. Like, I just want someone to be sitting here with me, because I wanted Carson to rest since he had been working all day. I totally thought in my head that I was going to be there all day in labor, because that's what you hear. Like, it's your first baby. You're usually in labor a lot longer. So I had this premeditated idea in my head that I was going to be there all day. Like, I was going to be in labor for like 12 hours. I did not know. So around 2:30, like I said, I started like having really bad contractions, and I woke Carson up. My mom and my aunt ended up coming back in the room, I think around like 3:30. But I had mentioned to my nurse, I kept telling my nurse that I needed to like get up because I felt like I was peeing in the bed. And she goes, no, like your water didn't break. She checked me and my water didn't break according to like what she had done at that time. So then I was like, no, like I gotta get up and go to the bathroom. So I got up to go to the bathroom, came back, and as I was walking back to the bed, my water broke all over the floor. And I think this was around 3. And my mom and my aunt were in the room by then. And we called the nurse in there, and my contractions were literally unbearable. And she checked me, and I was at a 6. So that was at like 3:30, I think. She checked me, and I was at a 6. And she did confirm that my water did break at that time. So at 3:30, things started getting really intense and things started moving along really, really fast. I was like clenching onto Carson's hand, like I'm surprised I didn't break his hand. Like my contractions were coming like a minute apart and they were lasting really long. Like they were lasting a really long time to me. I don't know exactly how long they were lasting, but they were coming back to back to back. And I didn't have my epidural at this time. I didn't have any pain medicine. I finally told the nurse, I was like, no, I need something. So she gave me a medicine through my IV. That can kind of like take the edge off of things. It doesn't completely numb you like the epidural does. So I ended up taking that, and it did not help. If y'all were wanting advice for me on whether to take like the IV medications or the epidural, I'd say skip the IV medications totally, because it just made me feel drunk. The pain did not go away. Like the medicine just like rushed to my head and I felt drunk, like so drunk, and it was bad. And I was still having really bad contractions on top of that medicine, and I'm just feeling drunk. I got really nauseous. It was not good. I totally do not recommend getting those. And everybody's experience is going to be different, but if you're asking me, I would say skip the IV medications totally, because it's only going to take the edge off for a little bit anyways, according to what the nurse was telling me. It never really helped me, honestly. So I think at 4 a.m., I was like 6 or 7 centimeters dilated. And my nurse was like, honey, I'm just going to go ahead and call the anesthesiologist, tell him to come early and get your epidural, because you're in a lot of pain. Like, I could not handle it anymore. I was like shaking, could not do it. I was crying, squeezing Carson. Oh my gosh, it was a lot of pain. It was so bad. And so she told me at like 3, probably at like 4. Yeah, so she had called the anesthesiologist. She had called the anesthesiologist at 4, and he was going to be there like as soon as possible. And so I was sitting there waiting, and when she told me she called him, I was like thinking he was going to be there in like 10, 15 minutes. Like in my head, I was just like, please hurry, because I'm dying here. And like every time a nurse would come in, I'd tell her, I'm like, is he almost here? Is he almost here? And she's like, no, honey, it's only been 5 minutes. And in my head, it feels like it's been hours, because I'm in like really, really bad pain. So he got there at 4:45, and I was terrified of getting the epidural, but at that moment, like, I was in so much pain, I did not even care anymore. The fear of the epidural in my head had completely gone away. I was like, you know what, no, like, I need the epidural, like, there's no way I can do this, like, I'm gonna have to do it. Like, the fear of the epidural totally went away. And usually when they get in there, they go over with you, like, how everything's gonna happen. I was in so much pain, I was like, no, just give me the epidural now. Like, please, just give me the epidural now. I do not have time to sit here for you to, like, go over, like, all this stuff. I already signed the papers, like, just give me the epidural. I had leaned over on the side of the bed, and the nurse, like, was in front of me, obviously, and I was, like, leaning over, like, you get the epidural. And at this point, the pain was like unbearable. And you have to be totally still when you're getting the epidural, because if not, then they might not get it in the right place and you could become paralyzed, as I'm sure most of y'all know. So in my head, I was freaking out because I could not sit still because of how bad my contractions were. And I was like, oh my God, there's no way I cannot sit here and get the epidural, because I was seriously in so much pain. And the nurse was like, Brittany, like, you have to do it, honey. Like, you have to do it. You have to sit here and be still for like 10 minutes. Let him get the epidural and you'll be fine. And so I was sitting there and I was just crying and like screaming because the pain was so bad and I couldn't move. So I was screaming. I was like squeezing the nurse because Carson couldn't be up right there. He had to sit down so he couldn't see anything because it's a procedure. So I was sitting there screaming and he finally got the epidural in. Okay, so after I'd gotten the epidural, I think it was probably around 5:30. And my doctor was supposed to come in at 6:30 just to make her rounds and all of her labor patients. So at 5:30, my nurse checked me and I was at like an 8 or a 9, like somewhere around that area. And as soon as I got my epidural, my blood pressure started dropping like really low. I started getting really dizzy. I thought I was going to pass out right there on the table, and I started freaking out. I got really nauseous. My blood pressure dropped, and so they had to put oxygen on me. They gave me a cold rag, and they had given me nausea medicine through my IV. Hey, do you want to talk too? Yeah. So when the epidural finally kicked in, I was so tired. I just kind of laid there. My doctor came in at 6:30 to check me and to like kind of go over things and see how far along I was and just kind of like see when I was going to be ready to give birth. And she comes in there and I'm like out of it. Like, I had just gotten over being so nauseous and like feeling like I was going to pass out, and I'm finally feeling better. I'm just really tired. I want to take a nap. Like, I just wanted to go to sleep. And she comes in there and she checks me and she goes, oh, Brittany, you're already 10 centimeters dilated. His head's right there. I can feel his head. And I'm like, oh my God, are you kidding me? And I was really excited, but at the same time, I was so tired. Things had happened so fast. Like, my labor had progressed so quickly, and I was not like expecting that at all, because everyone was telling me that, you know, like, it's your first baby. You're probably going to be there for a really long time. No, not in my case. Like, Bennett was ready to come into this world. After she checked me and noticed that I was 10 centimeters dilated and his head was right there, they sat me up to bring him down further and like to kind of like help him drop more. My doctor had told me she was going to come back in at 7 and we were going to start pushing. And so I just kind of sat there. I was so tired. I was like out of it. I was just kind of like in and out of falling asleep. But there was so much pressure. Like, when you get your epidural, like, you don't feel your contractions, or at least I didn't. But I felt so much pressure. Like, I could totally feel his head like coming down. So at 7 a.m. my doctor had come back in there and we were going to start pushing. And so I started pushing, and I believe I got 3 like contractions. Like, on my 3rd contraction, he had come out. So he was born within 15 minutes of pushing, and it was amazing. I'll insert some pictures here of him right after he was born and of me and Carson and stuff, just to kind of like share the amazing experience with y'all, because it was seriously the most amazing experience of my entire life. Even though I was in so much pain, I would go back and redo it like in a heartbeat. My labor and delivery was definitely really unexpected. I was 38 weeks when I had him, and I had him within 6 hours of going into labor. Like, it was insane of how fast I had him. Since everything had gone so fast, I didn't really like have time to take everything in. Like, I was in so much pain, like excruciating pain, and then the next second I was like really nauseous, felt like I was gonna pass out, and the next second I was pushing him out and he was born. Like, that's seriously how fast it felt to me. Hey. Oh. You wanna say hi? Say hi. Oh, you're missing a sock. The usual. So yeah, that was my labor and delivery story. I hope y'all enjoyed it. I tried to cover everything that I could remember. And yeah, I mean, it was a really fast labor and delivery. There wasn't really much to cover, honestly, because I wasn't just sitting there all day, and things progressed really fast. So we hope you guys enjoyed it. And if you have any other questions, you can go ahead and comment them down below. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more from me and Mr. Bennett here. Say hi. Say hi. So yeah, if you want to see more from us, go ahead and subscribe to my channel, and I'll be posting a baby night routine sometime within this week or next week. So be looking out for that. And that's it from me today, guys. We will see you later. Say bye. Say bye.